Live from News Up at Adesawe Kanda, also live on TV. TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Tonight, adjourned in business in power from here. That's the question we ask. Also, the National Democratic Congress here on your election command center and the Electoral Commission of Ghana are at each other's throats. Again, this time around, over the certified results that's registered. What really is the difficulty in getting the summarized voters register, as was demanded by the Electoral Commission and also the NDC. We have details for you on that particular issue here on Ghana Tonight. Also, the unveiling of the statues of President Kotoko and some of his appointees raises public concern. And tonight, we engage the persons and parties who are involved in this matter. We'll have a conversation on this here on Ghana Tonight. As always, you are an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking and let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
Former director of the Ghana School of Law, Kweku Asari, has called on the MPP caucus leader, Alexander Penyumarking, to apologize for the indiscipline he showed during a news conference shortly after the Speaker adjourned the House. Asari explains that this is the only way the Afutu lawmaker can amicably resolve the sitting position impasse.
The Honorable Penyumarking himself recognized the need for decency. A majority leader ought not to launch an assault on the citadel of Parliament merely because they disagree with the Speaker. When he was addressing the media, the whole world was watching. This is not, the way a leader, the majority leader, should address the Right Honorable Speaker. And I think that the majority leader or minority leader should apologize to the whole nation, not even to the Speaker.
The vice presidential candidate of the MPP, Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh, has assured the overlord of Mamprugu, Indunya Nairi, Napo Abdullahi Shariga, and the people of Mamprugu of his support to ensure the MPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, wins the 2024 elections. During a courtesy call on the Nairi as part of his regional campaign tour in Nalerigu in the Northeast region, he expressed confidence in Bawumia's potential to transform Ghana's future as president.
Mashanti would make sure that my senior brother, Dr. Bawumia, becomes the president of the Republic of Ghana. The promise Dr. Bawumia and myself make that we will make chieftaincy come to where it was before. We will empower chiefs, and the power that they had, will give it back to them.
Independent candidate and leader of the new force, Kwame Bediako, says his ongoing campaign tour across the 276 constituencies of the country is causing a scare for the NDC MPP duopoly ahead of the December 7 election. At a rally in Ho Wednesday night, as part of his tour of the voter region, Mr. Bediako intimated that his emergence onto the political scene some few months ago was initially undermined and ridiculed, but has since become a headache for the two major political parties.
So they thought that this was not going to amount to anything. Look, they always thought that the young people would never, ever get into the political industry and change the face of it, but now we are changing it. Can you picture Ghana a year from now with young ministers, with young presidents, yes, with young voices, yes, with young strength, yes, with young energy, yes, making Ghana strong again.
Asante Kotoko's midfielder, Emmanuel Entry, has expressed excitement after earning his debut call-up to the Black Stars team for the 2025 AFCON qualifying games against Niger and Sudan. Entry has played an important role in Kotoko's strong start to the season, which has the Porcupine Warriors third after 9 games. One key player who missed is Thomas Partey, who was also absent from the October international break due to illness.
I've been waiting for this opportunity for a very long time, and it's a dream come true. And it shows I made the right decision by joining Kumasi Asante Kotoko, and I think I'm doing something right that has, taken me to this level. I think I can do more. It means a lot to me. Credit goes to our head coach and to the technical team also, and also to the head coach of Ghana Black Stars, Coach Otuado, for keeping an eye on me.
Well, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. You can find a lot more there. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, Parliament adjourned indefinitely again, putting government business in Parliament in jeopardy if the impasse between the two sides of the House is not resolved amicably. Where do we go from here? That's the question on the minds of many. And in fact, you're not alone on this. And that's the fundamental aspect of the conversation, the focus of our conversation tonight. It's uncertain when again Parliament will sit following the adjournment of the House indefinitely by the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Alban Sumana Kisfo-Bagben. Even though the life of this Parliament is nearing an end, there are still some critical government businesses, which I'm going to run through shortly for you to see, on the table. But a standoff between the NPP and the NDC caucuses in the House of Parliament over the declaration of some 4 seats vacant and who is majority and who is minority, that's really virtually brought the proceedings to a standstill. Here's the Speaker of Parliament explaining why it has become necessary for him again to adjourn the House Senate earlier today.
In a swift session on Thursday morning, Parliament reconvened, but only members of Parliament from the NDC were seen in the majority section, with New Patriotic Party MPs noticeably absent. This imbalance set the tone for what would become a very short gathering. Speaker Alban Gbagben, for the second time in 3 weeks, adjourned proceedings indefinitely, attributing the suspension to the Business Committee's failure to convene and outline an agenda. This recall session, initiated by the MPP group in Parliament and intended to tackle urgent legislative matters, was effectively stalled without the MPP's presence.
The signatories who made the request have not shown up, and in fact there's no order paper for today because the Business Committee could not meet. It is not advisable to be adjourning from day to day, and so I'll proceed once more to adjourn the meeting indefinitely.
Reactions from both sides of the aisle soon followed. Dr. Kesler.
Well, that's the Speaker there, and in fact this explanation that he gave is consistent with what happened just a little over almost 2 weeks ago. The NDC caucus also had a clear position on the matter, that to the extent that this recall today was triggered by the MPP MPs and they not attending to the business of the House today, even though they triggered the recall, and their view is actually amounts to causing financial loss to the state. We're going to hear from Dr. Kesler Toforson shortly. But right after that, Alexander Afenyomarken, who leads the NPP caucus in Parliament, also addressed the press. Now, a number of things came up from that particular address, almost 30 minutes. He was directly pointing fingers at the Speaker of Parliament, in his words, for leading the chaos in Parliament. Take a look.
What Mr. Speaker did today amount to supervising chaos and bringing the image of democracy to disrepute. The NDC is on a war path. They want confusion in this country. They want lawlessness in this country. And all these are being supervised by Mr. Speaker. We look forward to engaging Mr. Speaker in the next few hours and days. We pray that he does the needful. If he doesn't do the needful, we will continue to rely on the law to get the right things done.
Well, there are those who have also held a different opinion about this Alexander Afenyomarkin espousing there, and also raising questions about the Speaker's conduct. Well, Dr. Kesla Toforsing, before this press conference by Alexander Afenyomarkin also did indicate that the MPs should be held for causing financial loss to the state, because every time Parliament is recalled, there's a cost to it, and you and I are the ones paying for it. Take a look.
Here is an abuse of the Constitution and the standing orders of Ghana's Parliament. The NPP minority caucus have indeed caused financial loss to the state.
He urged Ghanaians to remember the incident as they cast their votes on December 7th.
We the behavior of the NPP and punish them accordingly. Everything shows that the NPP are tired, they are fed up, and they are not ready to work for the people.
On the other side,
well, there was a lot that happened after the Speaker adjourned Senate earlier today. The likes of Kwabena Tahir Hammond, the Trade Minister, Dansia Sokwa Member of Parliament, engaged the press, and some unsavory words, for the lack of better expression, was used in that interview with the press, and a number of reactions to that as well. I just want to quickly, let's hear from K.T. Hammond, two things that he was involved in earlier today. That interview with the journalists, and the journalists posing specific questions to him, because he is a lawyer as well, about the conduct of the MPP MPs. Take a look.
But Parliament is at 10 o'clock. You should have come there. You were not there. Sit at 10 o'clock. What does he want? You are not a council. We are in Parliament. We are not in court. One day, every day, you are not ready to work. Let the children behave the way you are behaving. Let the children behave like a
Well, that's K.T. Hammond there, one of a number of things that he was involved in today. And what you just saw is his interaction with some NDC MPs who were leaving the Accra International Conference Center after the Speaker adjourned Senate. He literally went after them and verbally attacked them. That's what you saw there. He had to actually be restrained by James Klucha Veji and some NDC MPs, because he came at them with that level of fury that you're seeing there, and he raising questions as to why, in his view, they decided to go sit at the majority side of the House, and making reference to the Supreme Court decisions and so on. That's K.T. Hammond there. Now, quite apart from this, I wanted to just take a look at this. Aside everything that's going on, the reason why Parliament was recalled today for the urgent business, as according to the MPP MPs, to be undertaking, this is it. There are two of President Akufo-Addo's Supreme Court nominees who are yet to be approved by Parliament. That is still on hold because of what's happening in Parliament. There are some tax waivers as well that have not yet been approved. There are some IDA facilities with reference to the $250 million Financial Stability Fund, which is critical for the financial sector in this country, especially the banks that were heavily impacted by the domestic debt exchange program. Government promised that they will benefit from this particular fund, right? That's not in place as yet. Now, architects registration bill is on the ice. The vaccines development and manufacturing bill, the merger of ECG and NEDCO, that bill 2024 is still on the ice because of this. And then you also have the University of Local Governance and Development Bill 2024, and then this one, the Nuclear Power Ghana Authority Bill, the merger of Energy Commission and PURC Bill 2024, all of that still on the ice. The merger of the VRA, very controversial one, VRA, Buoy Power Authority 2024, is on the ice. At least based on this particular information we have from the Minister of State at the Ministry of Energy, that's Herbert Crapper, this bill, the merger of the Volta River Authority and Buoy Power Authority bill, it says further discussions on that bill should cease for further consultations to take place between the Energy Ministry, government, and also the Buoy Power Authority and the VRA staff, because you know the VRA senior staff have been heavily against this. They've held a number of press conferences, which we have brought some details to you on. So all this plus more are the urgent businesses that the MPP sought to have this parliament recalled. But they didn't attend to the business of the House. They gave reasons why they didn't do so. But Kennedy Japan, the same central member of parliament, had some words of departure, and some have described it as words of wisdom after the decision by Alexander Penyomakin. But take a look.
To get understanding from the speaker. So we were at the caucus meeting, and maybe I will admit that it took so long.
But that is even allowed in parliamentary culture.
I engaged Honorable Agboja and told the minister, oh, then you made a mistake. You should have informed the speaker that you were at the caucus meeting. The speaker didn't know, which I cannot defend because I'm not part of the leadership. And I'm sure he's right. I'm sure if my leaders have informed the speaker that we're holding a meeting and we'll be back, definitely he would have waited. So,
it was the onus also on the so-called majority leaders to inform the speaker. Where are your colleagues? And you tell them they're in caucus. They want to tell us that nobody knew that we were having a caucus meeting.
Well, he can be Epimenides and sit on the fence, because even if he knows, and once there's no official communication, I can pretend I didn't know. That one day, I can pretend that I didn't know. Yeah, that's the problem. I've posed that question because I entered the chamber and I saw NDC occupying MPP seats. So I just had to leave. I told the leader and the leadership, the two whips and deputy majority leader, that we should go back. In the interest of our country, Ghana, I believe in Ghana. With what is going on in Parliament, it's not good for the country. I have advised my colleagues from the other side that, look, assuming you win the incoming election, would you get 2/3 of Parliament to take decisions?
That's Kennedy Japan there, and we're live on 3FM 92.7 as well. Let me just welcome now the Honorable Rashid Hassan Pelpo. He's a member of Parliament for the Wa Central constituency. He's also a member of the Business Committee of Parliament, which Alexander Penyomakin chairs. And you heard him make reference to that Business Committee and the reason why there was no that's order paper for today's sitting. Also joining us right now, Dr. John Osai-Kwapong is a Senior Development and Democracy Fellow at the Center for Democratic Development, CDD. Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, my brother.
Great. It's always good to have you. And I'll start off with you, Honorable Rashid Pelpo. So even though the NPP MPs were the ones who triggered this particular recall of Parliament today, based on what the Speaker said, there was no business captured on the order paper. Alexander Penyomakin says that based on the memo that was sent for the recall, there were some items captured there, and so he had instructed the clerk to Parliament that there was really no need for the business committee to meet because the issues were already spelled out. Is it consistent with parliamentary practice?
It's very, well, good evening to everyone. I think it's very, very inconsistent and very, very unprecedented. We don't have a situation like that to be referred to, that in a situation where Parliament is recalled in a manner they have done, you look at the recall indication and say that forms the business committee, that then will be the report to the business committee and will then be used as the order paper. No, definitely no. The business committee is a special committee in Parliament that sits once a week to define the business of Parliament and read before Parliament by the leader of the business committee, normally the leader of government business. In this sense, would have been himself, who would have read it to us or by the majority leader, and then it is debated and it is approved. But so if it doesn't come from the business committee and approved by the House, there's no business of the House. No indication can be done by a single individual like Afenyo Markins to represent the views and content of the business committee report approved by the plenary. So I think it was completely out of place for him to have said that.
I see. So it is inconsistent with parliamentary practice that he, even though as leader of the NPP caucus, he cannot suo moto instruct the clerk to Parliament about a particular item or a number of items to be considered as the business of the House to be captured on another paper without consultation or sitting with the members of the business committee. That's not done.
It is definitely so. It is impossible for any single individual to present a business to the House and expect the Speaker to take it and adopt it and present it as if it was the reason we were invited back to the House. The business committee is led by the majority leader, with the minority leader being the ranking. It also involves the two whips, majority whip and minority whips, and then selected members from the House. So I have been in business committee since 2008. No, 2012. And I have still been there. I just moved out of the business committee right now, but it has nothing to spoil the fact that I have seen consistently for more than 12 years, 3 terms, what the business committee represents. So I think that it has never been, there's no precedent in which the majority leader or minority leader will present his views in a recall and then the Speaker will act on it as if that is the business of the House. In fact, that would have been inconsistent with the law, the standing orders, and would have violated the overall content of reason for businesses in the House. Businesses are arranged by a committee, a standing committee of the House, and the standing committee is the business committee. And they just cannot present the business committee even to the Speaker. The business committee is presented to the House, and the House deliberate on it and approve it.
Well, Dr. Kwapa, I'm going to bring you in a bit on this particular issue, but there's one outstanding question to you, Dr. Rashid Pelpo, that before this recall, there was another recall that was some 4 months ago by the same NPP MPs. When that recall was triggered, did the business committee meet to spell out the issues or the details of the order of business?
Well, the matter didn't come up at the time. The issue was about whether we were enough to make any decisions at all, even to decide whether to approve business or not to approve. We had no numbers to do that. And so there was no need even going back to find out whether there was business or not.
Well, but that's even before the vacant seats matter came up, there was a previous recall in which the Speaker even expressed some concern about how the MPs went about that particular recall. That's the first time that you started sitting at this Accra International Conference Center venue. You recall that? Did the business committee, that is where sit to have the issues as in the order paper and matters to be discussed also considered?
Okay, yeah. At that time, I had moved out of the business committee. But the truth is that if you want to change anything and allow, they say Parliament is a master of its own rules. And so if there is the need for us to summarize the content of any business at all, it can be done with the approval of the Speaker and the leadership.
Right.
If the leadership, so if, for example, today, leadership had met the Speaker and presented an issue and say, look, because of the exigencies of the time, the business committee could not meet, but this, and then give some reasons which are tangible, the Speaker would have come to the chamber to discuss the discussion he would have had with the leaders, and then spell out the issues, and then call the minority leader to spell out the issues, and then the House will then begin to look at it and to accept it or not accept it.
Right.
But it's difficult, really, really difficult for anybody to present issues to the House without the business committee and without the deliberation and consent of the House.
Well, until today, we're getting to know that it is possible, actually, based on Alexander Fenyomaki. But you say that that's abnormal. That's not consistent with the practice of Parliament, essentially. And that's why I bring in Dr. Saikwapong, because, with this matter that's been happening in Parliament, you've been following it quite closely. Now, the positions are quite entrenched. There's been a call and a recommendation for some intervention so as to ensure some compromise and negotiation as well. In what form should that take? Who has to initiate this?
Good question. Good evening to you, and good evening to Dorable and your listeners. Who has to initiate it has to be the leadership of Parliament. I have been, in my reflections today, I've been saying to myself that some of these parliamentarians have worked with each other for years, have known each other for years. I'm sure some of them have developed very good friendships. Some of them have built very good relationships over the years. And for me, that kind of soft power is what are the levers you want to push in moments like this, when it seems like everyone is digging in and everyone is, taking an entrenched position. Between the announcement of the recall and today's sitting, my expectation and my hope was that enough conversations would have gone on in the background, enough discussions, and the building of some kind of agreement or consensus to allow the House then to be able to sit today and conduct business. So it was a little disappointing to see that it didn't happen. But hopefully, a couple of leaders from the NPP side, from the NDC side, together with the Speaker, I'm sure can get together and resolve this impasse so that Parliament as an institution can do its business between now and when the 9th Parliament comes into force. Other than that, my understanding is that the issue that triggered all of this, which is what does Article 97 1G and H mean, If my understanding is correct, the court will rule on that substantive matter
yes, on the 11th of November.
Okay, so then without this sort of gentle person's agreement that I was hoping could have brought the House into some consensus compromise to be able to sit today, I'm guessing we would have to wait for the ruling on Monday, and then it is. I mean, my expectation is that once the court comes down on whatever that provision truly means, then Parliament will take its cue from that. The Speaker will take his cue from that, and then Parliament can move on based on that interpretation that has come from the courts. But I agree, if leadership on both sides can find a way to meet with the Speaker and resolve this and take it back to their caucuses, so the caucuses can also then agree and return to conduct the business, that would be great.
And talk about the fact that there's what has been described as urgent government business at stake on the ice as we speak. Now, a quick one, there's been calls on the president to also step into this matter. We've seen the Council of State meet the Speaker. Today we got to know they've met Alexander Afenyo-Markin, and we don't know as yet if they've met Dr. Kesla Tuforson because he did not mention that. But is it time for the executive to also step in to bring a truce to this?
I would wait for Parliament itself to resolve this, right? See it as this is a matter for the institution of Parliament to wrestle with and come up with some resolution based on their own internal processes, discussions, conversations, etc., etc. Especially because I'm not sure how I don't even know now who to call the minority or the majority. Especially too because I'm not sure how executive intervention would be received by the NDC side. I would pause on that for now and just let Parliament find a way
deal with their own issues.
Out of this challenge.
Perfect. Dr. Sakwapon, stay with me. And Dr. Rashid Pelpo, just a minute on this. So with what's going on now, what's the thinking of what should be the considered solution to this particular situation that Parliament is faced with? Quickly.
Well, first of all, in order for the Speaker to be able to address Parliament and to seek approvals or consent or a vote in Parliament, we all have to be in Parliament. There have to be a House sufficient enough to be able to take a decision. And so the first ruling by the Speaker, or the ruling by the Speaker, now says that the 4 members of Parliament are no longer members of Parliament. The Supreme Court has taken a decision on that. We have to get back to Parliament, sit as he ruled earlier, and if the Speaker has to make any decision, he will now make reference to the Supreme Court ruling and make a pronouncement. Now, the MPP guys or members of Parliament are unwilling to come and sit as minority, but it is a logical way to go for them to come in, sit as in the minority as was done by the Speaker. Then the Speaker will now say, now I've received some ruling by the Supreme Court, and then he will spell out the ruling, and then he will now say, well, this is how it is, and so let's obey it. And so we will now not implement the decision as spelled out in the Constitution until it is interpreted, until the law is now interpreted by the Supreme Court. After which we now say that, look, the Speaker has ruled again based on what we now all hear on air, in the media, but not truly communicated to us in Parliament. And so it's important, but essentially it's also important for the minority group now, the MPP side, to speak with the Speaker and to speak with their colleagues. I mean, they are too far away from seeking the solution. They stand alone, take their own decision, get on the media, attack the Speaker for unfair reasons, unfairly. And you look at the accusations and you wonder whether they really want to see solutions to the problem or not. Okay. It is right for the Speaker to rule on this matter as it had been done in 2 earlier situations. So if he rule on it, and you not take the matter to court, it doesn't mean that the earlier ruling can be ignored unless we get back to Parliament, sit down for the Speaker to rule again. And that is it for you to even have quorum to even do that. Thank you so much for your thoughts on this. Appreciate you. Rashid Pelpo is Member of Parliament for the Wa Central Constituency. In fact, he's one of the longest serving MPs that we have in this country. He's been part of the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and this 8th Parliament, and he's hoping to be part of the 9th Parliament as well. We'll see. I thank you so much, and I wish you well. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, the National Democratic Congress and the Electoral Commission of Ghana are at each other's throat again. This time over the certified voters register. What really is the difficulty in getting the summaries of the register as has been demanded by the NDC? In fact, this was a matter that got the Electoral Commission and indeed the political party representatives having to spend the most part of last night. And you saw us break that news here on Ghana Tonight from what we got from our colleague George Quening. That meeting had to be dispersed as of 12 midnight. That's last night, almost midnight, because the Electoral Commission indicated that it is not obliged to present a summary of the voters register as was demanded by the NDC. They issued a statement earlier today after that demand by the NDC yesterday. We're going to put portions of that statement on the screen right now just for the benefit of you, our viewers, and also read it to you on 3FM 92.7. Essentially, the Electoral Commission making the strong point that they are not legally obliged to give any summaries, or the summarized voters register as was demanded by the NDC. Let's take a look at Jane Mensah last night addressing the press.
To be able to do that. And so we are unable to provide it to you now as we speak. Per what we are doing now and our assessment is going to take anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour to finish that process. Then we can then start generating the statistics for you.
As a commission, we will take our leave now, and it's up to you to keep it or return it, but it is a certified true copy of the register. You cannot hold us to ransom. We are not obliged to give you a summary. This has been the practice since 1992, and it is out of, the spirit of transparency and responsiveness, as I mentioned, that we are providing those summaries to you. So as we indicated, we will notify you tomorrow, and we'll send the summaries, I believe that by soft copy. Those who return their own, when you get the summaries via WhatsApp or email, you can come and pick up your certificate.
Well, that's Jen Mensah there, and earlier you heard the head of IT there also speaking about their inability to meet the demand of the NDC, and in fact, this was almost at midnight. Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer is Deputy Director of IT and Elections for the NDC. I still have Dr. John Osai-Kwapong with me. Dr. Rashid Tanko, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And now, according to the Electoral Commission Chair, there's no precedence to the demand that you're making that there should be a summary of the voters register given to the political parties. Is this consistent with precedents?
Alfred, let me say good evening to your cherished viewers and you yourself. Alfred, what they said is not true. In fact, they are economical with the truth.
Why?
Even the last IPAC meeting we held, where they presented the revised provisional voter registers to us, before they did that, they presented voter statistics and summary of the provisional register. In fact, Dr. Ofuri did the presentation. He told us that at that time, the total registered voters, the total registered voters at that time stood at 18,772,251. And went further to now give us the female voters in Ghana, male voters, went further to give us fresh voters, as well as absentee voters, transfer voters, proxy voters, special voters.
Yes, we have all of that.
Yes, you remember that one?
Yes, that was the provisional.
That was summaries of the register they gave us before the exhibition. Is that not true?
Yes, that was a provisional.
Now, that was a provisional. Now you are now coming to give a certified register, and we have to ask for you to give us the summaries this time round.
Now, so let me understand.
Can you see that something is amiss with their presentation? Can't you see that?
What? And just for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, and Dr. Kwapong, I'll bring you here at this point as we go on. Dr. Tanko, what's the importance of the summarized register? I mean, reason why the demand you make is of critical consideration.
Very, very important. You see, the register is a full body that contains polling stations, and they have 5 or 6 several lists that are listed into each of the polling stations. And so if you take a register and you want to tease out these figures, you will take a whole month. You will not be able to finish with it. And so those generating the data, as they are generating it from polling stations to constituencies, they are taking out the figures to generate the summaries. So by the time they'll finish and they finish compiling the register, they would have finished also compiling the summaries. It makes it easier to analyze the register. But when you just present a whole register on a hard drive, and expect somebody to go and sit down to now take polling station after register and list to get it, then if the person wants to swindle you with data, he can get away with it before you realize the time is up. And these are the things they do. And I'm saying that this is not the first time. Look, we've been doing this since 1992. We have figures, data. Hey, look, if they don't have statistics, how come they are printing ballot papers? They generate the statistics from the register and give it to the polling printing houses for them to print the ballot papers. So this is not new. When somebody sit down and tell you that we have never done this before, it is not true. It is never true and can never be true.
She was clear in the video we just played that it's never happened. It's not been the case since 1992. So I'm not saying it's the EC chair who is making that statement.
Alfred, dismiss that. It's not true. I am saying that we've been in this business since 1992. We've done it severally.
I see.
What is voter code books? You might have been asking about it. This one, we don't even request it. They bring it. And the voter code books is what is known as the statistics. It gives you polling station registered, and then at the end of it, you see the total registered voter for each constituency. And at the end of all the constituencies put together, you see the total registered voters for the region.
Well, Dr. Tanko,
that is the body of the register.
Right. So hold on a bit for me, Dr. Osai Kwapong. So clearly, based on the Afrobarometer survey, also we have Global Info Analytics survey. A number of them don't favor the Electoral Commission when it comes to the trust, the optics going into this election, some 30 days away from today. What would you have recommended based on what we just heard from the AC chair in response to the demand of the NDC, as in the posturing in reference?
So I read the statement in which the EC, says that we did acknowledge the request. And I think the statement says they did that breakdown by, I think they gave the statistics at the regional level. But however, because of what it would take to generate all of the additional statistics, it becomes challenging. That's my reading of it, to do that. I know. So from what I know about the voters register, right, I know that during the registration process, you tend to see these infographics, at least from the 2021 and then the most recent limited one. You'd see these numbers that are shared in infographics, yes. How many has registered.
Total male, female, proxy voters, early voting.
All of those things. So for me, then I'm just wondering if there is a compromise, and by compromise I mean, is there some middle ground between the NDC and the EC, where some common ground can be found to figure out what can be done given the time? If I understand Dr. Rashid clearly, the placing that burden on the political party is a bit much because it takes a lot of time to be able to generate those. And so the expectation was that the EC would generate it and then send it to the political parties and the independent candidates. But again, as you and I have said quite a number of times on this platform, there are still those lingering, trust deficits between these two, meaning the NDC, and the EC, which at this point I'm not sure how you overcome all of those things. But are there other elements that can be done within the time constraints that the NDC would find acceptable, or is it all or nothing? And how do you resolve those kinds of differences? I mean, at this point, I'm not sure how the EC and the NDC resolves the differences that keeps emerging between them.
And we'll see how the coming days will look like. I thank you so much, Dr. Edward. That's John Osai-Kwapong. He's a Senior Democracy and Development Fellow at the Center for Democratic Development, CDD. Also to you, Dr. Rashid Tanko, Deputy Director of IT and Elections for the NDC. We're back shortly after this quick break here on Ghana Tonight. Stay with us. always has a lot to offer you. Roland Walker and also Cookie T, Nashoko, Bellamundi. They're all going to be there to give you everything you need to know to start your morning. On behalf of the rest of the team here on Ghana Tonight, thank you for staying with us. I am Alfred Akanse. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
This program is brought to you by
MTN.